How do you explain to people who say, don't touch my Medicare? How do you explain?
So we're not. So how I explain to people who say, don't touch our Medicare, if you're 55 years old or older, we're not going to touch your Medicare. Our whole point is that our budget says, don't touch your Medicare, repeal President Obama's rationing board that does touch their Medicare. But in order to be able to keep the promise that we're now making to people above 55 years old to not touch their Medicare, you have to reform it for the next generation so that it's solvent and secure, and so that we can cash flow the current generation these promises. And the only way we think that you can do it, instead of having government ration the program, is give seniors more choices. Just like we do with the prescription drug benefit, just like we do with current Medicare Advantage program, which about a fourth seniors have today, and operate it like a plan that members of Congress and federal employees have today. It works better, it's more efficient, and it gives seniors more choices versus having some distant bureaucrat on a board make their decisions for them.
Sure. Well, the most recent news regarding you is today you announced that you will not be running for Herb Kohl's Senate seat. Reasoning?
It was an easy decision to make. I have much more influence and impact, given where I am in the House as chairman of the House Budget Committee, than if I were starting from scratch on seniority as a junior senator. To me, the title doesn't matter. What matters is, where can I make the biggest difference? Where do I have the biggest impact? And where can I be in better position to make a difference for Wisconsinites? And it is just very clearly is because of where I am in the House that it doesn't make much sense to leave where I am and move and start over from scratch in the Senate.
Sure. When did you actually make that decision? I know you've been on.
About a half hour after I heard Herb's announcement, I made it in my mind. And then my wife and my immediate family and a few friends talked it over this weekend. And everybody I talked to this weekend, whether it was a friend or a family member, they all agreed. It makes no sense to leave where I am in the House to start over in the Senate.
Right. Okay. Kind of changing course here. After the death of Osama bin Laden, what should the United States do in Afghanistan?
Let's pour on and finish this, and let's get victory. I think the death of Osama bin Laden is a huge moral victory. We're turning a page in the war on terror, not closing the book. But I think we should take this and all the intelligence we've gotten from this and really put it to the Taliban and put it to Al-Qaeda and pour on the offense so we can clean up this mess. Now, Pakistan's the big problem here. But what this trove of intelligence gets us and what the death of Osama bin Laden gets us is a huge boost on offense so that we can help finish this job and secure this mission in Afghanistan. And I think that's what we should be doing, is prosecuting this war far more effectively, far more convincingly now that we are on offense. And that, to me, is the best way to secure the mission, deny this area as a safe haven for terrorists, and make sure that people who fought and died for this cause will not have done so in vain, and will have done so that we have secured this area so that it doesn't become a place for terrorists to strike against us again.
Another changing of gears, the Republican nomination for president is pretty much up in the air. We don't even know who the candidates are going to be. Who's shown interest? Who do you think would make a good president?
I think it's just too soon to answer that question. I'm not trying to dodge your answer, but I honestly don't know the answer. Mm-hmm. I think other people are going to get in the race. We're all waiting to see if Mitch Daniels, the governor of Indiana, I'm told he's going to make an announcement within a week or two. Okay. We want to see what he does. So the field is not fully materialized yet. And it's not clear what all their messages and what they're going to be bringing to the table. So it's just too soon to tell.
Mm-hmm. Kind of a silly question, but kind of goes back to some of the debt talk. You have about 500,000 followers on Twitter, but you only follow one. You follow the debt clock?
Yeah.
Why is that?
It's kind of funny, isn't it? Yeah, I do. I actually watch the debt markets. I watch the bond markets. I'm very worried about the financial crisis in this country. Look, TARP and the financial crisis in 2008 caught us by surprise. Millions of people lost their jobs. Trillions of dollars of wealth was vanished from people's savings. This crisis we see coming, and we know how to measure it. We know basically when it's going to happen. We know why it's going to happen. And more importantly, we know what to do to stop it. And that is why I'm trying to be more or less a Paul Revere on these fiscal issues. It's why I'm staying in the House and not running for the Senate. Is I want to be singularly focused on this cause to prevent this country from going into a debt crisis and having another recession. and making sure that our children have a better future and a better standard of living. And we know right now, if we stay in the path we are on, they won't have that. That to me is unconscionable. And so I am a fairly singular focused person. I just think that this moment in America is a very precarious moment. And if we fix this problem and get this done right, we're going to be fine. We're going to be great. We're going to be prosperous. We're going to be an entrepreneurial economy. We're going to be an entrepreneurial society. And we're going to grow and prosper. But if we get it wrong, we're going to have real economic stagnation on our hands. We're going to be managing our decline as a nation. And that is the last thing our generation can do. We just can't afford to sever the legacy of leaving the next generation better off. The economy is struggling right now. And we've got to do the right things to get people back to work, to get us growing again, and then get this fiscal situation under control. So that's why I'm pretty focused on doing these issues.
But that focus is now. What about a couple of years ago when you did vote in favor of TARP? And you did vote for the bailouts. Do you regret those
No, I
votes?
don't. I don't. If you're talking about the auto one, the question was, do we give them TARP money, or do they get the $25 billion that was already spent for the auto companies in an energy bill I voted against, or give them TARP? I decided give them the money that's already been slated for them that they haven't received yet in order to prevent them from getting TARP. What happened? That bill didn't pass, and President Bush gave them TARP. President Bush told me he was going to do that. I did not want that to happen. As far as TARP itself, I believe we were in a crisis at the time, and we really had a risk of going into a Great Depression, far worse than what we had. And I believe at the moment that we were in, failure to pass that would have precipitated a real crash. So it was very ugly legislation. It was an ugly moment, one I don't enjoy, but I do believe that it was necessary, knowing what we knew at the time, to arrest this crash. And now we see a similar crisis brewing, which is even larger, but this one we see coming. TARP, that caught us by surprise. And so that is why I don't want to see that kind of mistake happen again. That is why I'm trying to do everything I can to get this debate going to the right place, to talk about what it takes to get economic growth, spending cuts, and spending controls to prevent that from happening again.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time.
All right, yeah, you bet.
Thanks
This is
for
great.